If I were to ask you, name a famous composer of marches, you would say?
Sousa.
There you go. You're experts. Look at that. So, what would a march concert be without, well, multiple Sousas if we're looking ahead, but without Sousa. So this one is a later Sousa. It's called From Maine to Oregon, written in 1913, actually pulled from an operetta. A lot of people don't know that Sousa didn't just sit around writing marches all day long. He wrote operetta, he wrote popular song, he wrote lots of interesting different forms. We know him for his marches. And some of his marches, this one, and actually one of his most famous, El Capitan, actually was pulled from an opera. So he wrote in that style, but he liked to diversify a little bit. So this is From Maine to Oregon. Not a real popular one. I'm not saying it's not good. He wrote so many that sometimes they didn't get played as often. What's interesting about how we got this, if you didn't know this, over the last, a long time, the President's Own United States Marine Band, the finest band in the world, went through and, in honor of their former director, John Philip Sousa, they went through and re-edited and put out in the public domain every single one of his marches. So if you are a band director like me or a band director like me in my day job, you can just get online and download any Sousa march for free and your band can play it, which is awesome, which is a really, really fantastic thing. They went through all the editing and all the publishing, and we have it down so we can print it out, and it comes out great. So a really great service from them. So this is, I hope you enjoy. This is From Maine to Oregon. Now that we're quizzing, if I were to say, who is the greatest film composer of all time, you'd say?
John Williams.
Yeah, of course. John Williams, yes. So this is the March from 1941. Not a particularly illustrious movie. No offense, John Belushi fans out there, but not really a movie that people talk about all the time. But the moment this starts, this can only be one composer. The moment you hear these first few notes and the whole feel of it can only be Williams. So I say this all the time, and it's now we know him as the film composer, but it doesn't diminish his talent. I think if you he just the medium he chose to work in. He's brilliant. Probably right now America's greatest living composer. So fantastic. He's 93. I think he just finished his last few conducting appointments, and he is now, I think, officially retired at this point. But he was working up until just a few months ago. He was still conducting. So really fantastic. We're happy to play this. This is the March from 1941. Okay. So, to continue on this march journey, this one is really a very, very well-known march in the band world. This is Valdres. It's a Norwegian march. Fun fact, it's the second march by a Norwegian composer we played. The first one was also by a Norwegian composer, but it's not really a Norwegian piece per se. This one is Norwegian. So, what that really means musically, I'm not sure I could tell you, but I just know that it's meant to be Norwegian by a Norwegian composer. So, but Valdres is a really, really lovely, lovely march. A lot of these first half, a little bit, actually this one was a little quicker. Both these Norwegian was the first one in this half and this one, or you'll find are a little bit slower. And actually marches kind of get this kind of rap. A lot of times you open up a march, it says at the top, march tempo. It doesn't tell you what that is, you're just supposed to know. Okay, actually what is march tempo? Anyone know what march tempo is?
120.
It's 120 beats per minute is march tempo. March tempo. So this one is a little bit slower, and it's a little more dramatic. The second half's a little bit quicker, a lot quicker in some spots. But this one is a little bit, just a little more stately, I guess you would say. But this is just a lovely, very melodic, beautiful march. This is Valdres by Johannes Hannesen. So, real quick, Phil and the board and everyone that does all the behind the scenes work. In my day job, I do it all. I do all the facilities. I do everything. Here, I just show up and you get to have fun making music. So the board and many people within the group make that happen for all of us. So it's just a wonderful group to be a part of. All right, second half. So we were in Norway. We were in the movies. I did our first Sousa. Spoiler, there'll be more Sousas later. This first second half starts with this first piece. It's called Lola Flores. It's a paso doble, which is a Spanish. It's a dance, but it's presented in a march style. So you'll hear this is distinctively a Spanish sound. Well, this has been a lot of fun. I love this piece a lot. So Lola Flores. Now, of all the pieces you're going to hear tonight, this is the one that's the most off the beaten path, you might say. And it's kind of a march in style for the most part, but most of the march is just the fact that the title has the word march in it. It's got a lot of just other kind of different feels to it. This is by an Australian composer by the name of Percy Aldridge Grainger. All I can tell you that a lot of you can find out on your own. He was a very interesting person. But his music was just really on the edge, especially for when he was writing this, 20s, 30s, 40s. It was very different than what people were listening to in the time in that kind of music. So you'll hear a lot more dissonance, so like clashing sounds you're used to hearing in these pieces. It's just, the only way I can explain it is it's very Grainger. If you listen to enough Grainger, you go, oh, that makes sense. But anyway, you'll be like, oh, that sounds different, and that's what he's going for. If you hear notes that don't quite sound right, they're not bad at this. They're good at it. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing. It's not them. They're not doing anything wrong. They're doing it perfectly. So, but this is one of his really most famous compositions. One that, if I'm being completely frank with you, is kind of crazy to do in the summer with an all-volunteer group. But I'll be honest with you, they're fantastic, and they made a lot of really great progress. And this is a really tough piece, and they've just done a great job. So this is Children's March by Percy Grainger, and I hope you enjoy it. Okay. See what I mean? It's a little different, right? Yeah, but Grainger was, the more you dig into it, the more you realize he was just working with a different set of cards than everyone else was. Both musically and unfortunately mentally as well. Okay. But this is not the format for Grainger stories. Okay. This next one is really the real true military march in the bunch. And this is an all-time, this is John Philip Sousa's Semper Fidelis, which this is a really fantastic piece of music. My really favorite memory, the very first time I saw the President's Band, I was in college, and they came to Eugene, because they try to get to every part, every state, I think it's every 6 years, they try to get around the country every so often. But they came to they're playing at the must have been at the fairgrounds in Lane County, and saw them, and this was the opener of the second half was this march, and it's their march, of course, and just I'd never heard anything like it, so it's always stuck with me. I love playing this piece. They've done a great job with it. So this is the classic, everlasting Semper Fidelis by John Philip Sousa. Would an exploration of marches be without a circus march? So, circus marches, this one was rescored to play with a concert or instrumentation. Circus bands usually had a little bit different kind of setup. But Carl King wrote a lot of circus marches. I think he was involved with circuses over time. So this is entitled Barnum and Bailey's Favorite, so it's right out there. It's a circus march. And this one, by tradition, circus marches have one thing in common usually. They're pretty quick. So I try not to injure my wonderful bandmates, but we're going to move pretty fast, I think, here. So This is our last number, wink wink, of the evening. So this is Barnum and Bailey. Thank you so much for coming out. I'll talk again in a second, but thanks so much for coming out. Really, I say this every time. I don't get paid to say this, but thank goodness. But our name, Tualatin Valley Community Band, the most important word, of course, is band, because that's what we do, but it really is community. For us to be here, we're just a community band. To have, on a Tuesday night, have this many people out here to hear us play is just really special, and we just love it. It makes us just feel really good about what we do. To be able to share what we do with you is really, it's what we do. So thank you so much for being here. It means a lot to us, it really does. So, Carl King's Barnum and Bailey's favorite. I don't know if that's true. All right, here we go. We're going to be quick, folks. I'm pretty sure it's against the law to have a community band concert in July and not have an encore of a specific piece. So enjoy. This is, of course, Sousa's Stars and Stripes Forever. Thanks again for coming on. much.